Well, we are back from the winter break at Lokomotive Leipzig and did pick up 2 wins in the league prior to that break, so it does mean we stay in third and have a big game coming up second up in today's episode, taking on Hannover, only 1 point behind us. But before then, we're in the third round of the DFB Pokal and take on Bundesliga opposition in Schalke. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 46 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well and coming up today to start a new week of the series. We come back from the winter break and take part in the third round of the DFB Pokal against Schalke from the Bundesliga. That one at home, no doubt, going to be a tough one, and off the back of that, big game in the league, first one back from that winter break as well. We take on Hannover in a third versus fourth clash. Looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, as well as a little bit of a transfer update. Then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but we've only played a few competitive games off the back of where we did leave things at the end of last week. If you missed that episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We play our last 2 games off the back of that before we did enter that winter break. Those were against both Karlsruhe and Werder Bremen off the back of that episode, where we did pick up a big win over Augsburg, then a slightly disappointing draw against Sandhausen, but thankfully we were able to still stay in third position going in to that winter break. Good 2-0 win there away at Karlsruhe. Goals in the first half to Cueto and one just after half time to our form striker in Thibaut Clige. And then that last game prior to the winter break, this one did not exactly go to plan. We went 1-0 down about halfway through the first half, albeit thankfully Daniel Cueto yet again on the score sheet to make sure we did go into the sheds locked up at 1-1 at halftime. Clige only on a 6-point free, so we did bring on Salue in his place and got a lot of game time this season because Clige has been in such good form, but thankfully came off the bench and picked up a double, and that was the reason we did pick up a 3-1 win over Werder Bremen at home. So 2 wins in our 2 games off the back of that episode at the end of last week, and also did play 1 friendly prior to this first game back in the DFB Pokal. Clige scored 8 goals. We beat a team by 14-0, so hopefully that means we're going to come back from the break in good touch and maybe have a chance of upsetting Schalke in the third round of the DFB Pokal. But in terms of the league table coming back from the winter break halfway through the season, we are just inside that promotion playoff spot, 1 point clear of our opposition in today's episode. And Hannover, of course, earlier in the season on our opening day, we travelled to take these guys on, having been relegated from the Bundesliga, lost 1-0 in what was a pretty encouraging performance, even though we did suffer defeat. Hopefully with this one being at home, we can pick up some points and stay in third spot on that league table. But obviously before then, we do have the small matter of a DFB Pokal tie where we do take on Schalke in the third round of that competition. So far, we've beaten 2 teams from down in the Free League, and no doubt this is going to be a lot tougher against a team who are just inside that top half of the Bundesliga. But it is at home, so hopefully we can use that to our advantage. Of course, last season we did take Cologne to penalties in the first round of the Cup. Hopefully we might be able to do something similar this time around and maybe come out on top. But obviously we are the outsiders going into this game, but thankfully no injury concerns going into this first game back from that winter break, which is good news. Before we do get stuck into the action today as well, a quick transfer update. 1 player is on his way out come the end of this season, and 1 player is coming in to replace someone whose contract is expiring. So if we go over to the transfer tab and have a look at these inactive deals, Osher Davida will be coming in at the start of next season to provide some extra cover for the front 3. That's because we are going to let go of Mike Owusu these days, only 2.5-star current ability and potential. He will be the backup to Krasnicki, but with that potential could end up being quite a good signing. Is a little bit injury prone, but it does mean that Danny Hermel still might get a bit of game time coming up from the second team if that is the case. But an Israeli 25-year-old who does look decent, pretty solid all round for that winger role that we do use here at Lokomotive Leipzig. And making his way out of the club, it is actually Daniel Ahindu. We did try and offer him a new contract, but he wanted a bit too much money Then we were going to give him 2 years off back home to Nigeria to join Nyimba, and they are paying him somewhere around £2,200 a week, which I don't think is justified for a player who these days only has 3.5 star potential. So Hindu will be leaving the club at the end of the season, albeit hasn't played too much for us this year, being down in the second team with the addition of the likes of Lok and Gal at centre-back. In the first team and to replace Michael Wusu for next season will be Oshiv Davida coming in from Standard Liège, the Israeli winger. But I think that covers everything off going in to today's episode, and we'll come back shortly and get stuck into the third round of the DFB Pokal. Can we cause a cup upset as we host Schalke? And here are the team sheets for this third round of the DFB Pokal. As I mentioned earlier, no injury concerns coming back from the winter break, so it does mean we're at full strength both in terms of our starting lineup and the bench for this one. There are Schalke. They are going with a 4-3-3. They will also just be coming back from a winter break. Hopefully, we might be able to make the most of that and pull off an upset in the cup at home. And just past the 5-minute mark, first highlight in this game is a free kick to Schalke, albeit they were inside their own half, albeit it doesn't take them long here to get on the front foot, giving them a lot of space there down that right-hand side. Cantero with an early shot. Thankfully, Krapakas comes up with a good save there, low to his right, and shortly off the back of that, another free kick here to Schalke. Already looks like we might be under the pump in this one, and it is Cantero who finds the ball, puts that one in there for Mullen. That's a good save from Krapakas, and thankfully, we are able to clear that one off the line. Some good early chances there for the Bundesliga outfit, but thankfully, still 0-0. And just shy of the 20-minute mark, have just noticed that Matteo Kachela has picked up a potential groin injury. This is not a game we're expected to win, and obviously our main goal for this season is to try and get up to the Bundesliga, try and get promoted out of the 2 Bundesliga. So with that in mind, I think we'll take him off, play things safe here. It is an early sub use, but still might not be a bad idea because it's probably a game we're not going to win anyway. Murati will come on for him, only 20 minutes in, still locked up at 0-0. And just past the half-hour mark, we get the next highlight in this game. It is still Schalke here, well and truly on the front foot, and yet again on the attack. They put a ball in the mixer there yet again for Cantero on the volley this time. Krapakas forced to tip that one over the bar, but certainly we are on the back foot in this game so far. We've done nothing in front of goal, not even a shot. Schalke, all the action has been in their favour yet again. They are on the attack. Alvedi this time, thankfully, puts that one over the bar, and somehow still 0-0. And only a few minutes shy of half-time, we finally are on the ball here. Our Lokomotive Leipzig will be a poor pass there from Dorenzo, and now Schalke might get a chance here through Mullen. Tight angle does beat Krapakas, but thankfully the tight angle does mean that one goes just wide of the post. Before then, did feel like maybe we might be getting on the front foot slightly. That's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? One shot, but still, first highlight with the ball, but unfortunately we did give it away, and going into the sheds, it is 0-0, but that is very fortunate. Schalke have been all over us in that first half, but thankfully not that many shots on target, so we get away with a pretty disappointing display. All the players out there on decent ratings, so we're going to leave things the way they are and get stuck into the second half, still locked up at 0-0. And only 5 minutes into the second half, we're actually going to make some changes now because Racine Bullock has picked up a yellow card. Will play things safely on. Heinke will come on for him, and also Tom Gal on a 6.4, so we'll bring on Lucas Lok in his place with that rating. Some early second half substitutions, but still 0-0. And about 10 minutes into the second half, we're about to get the first highlight here, and finally might be something in our favour. Clige from a free kick. So far, I haven't seen him score one of these, but obviously his goal scoring touch this season has been great, but unfortunately that one goes over the bar. Still 0-0, and while we are here, we'll just check on some player fitness and also ratings, and Dorenzo is down to a 6.4, so Yuri Bas can come on for him. We could also make our last substitution, but I think we might just save that up in case we do need an extra one in extra time. It could be quite useful bringing on 2 players at that time, because at the moment everyone else is on an okay rating, but with a half hour left, it is still 0-0. And shortly off the back of those substitutions, now down the other end here for a free kick to Schalke. Lucas Search does head that one away, but unfortunately no one home for us there, and they get a chance to somewhat build from the back, albeit well and truly camped inside our half. Klaus starts to make his way down that right hand side. Good work there from Clige, and hopefully we can finally do something on the counter attack, but unfortunately Murati bit slow on the ball. Good block there from Heinke on Cantero, and then a shot from a pretty open Schalke player there. Actually did get deflected, thankfully, otherwise pretty close to an open net in that bottom right corner, and thankfully we do deal with that danger initially from the following set piece, and indeed there's an offside in there. 65 minutes gone, still hanging this at 0-0. And we've just made our way into the last 15 minutes of this game. Another corner here to Schalke. They have certainly had their chances from set piece in this game. We dealt with that one, but now Grimmel makes his way inside the box. Good block there from one of our defenders to make sure Krapakas not forced into a save. You'll notice Osman Tilgan, orange injury. Hopefully that's not too serious. We can deal with that off the back of this game, but that might be a sub we have to make going into extra time if we can get this that far, but 10 minutes left, and it is still somehow 0-0. And with 5 minutes left in this game, we now have a corner in our favour, but unfortunately Lucas Locke doesn't jump to try and get on the end of that one. Tilgan squares that one for Cliche, but I'm pretty sure Tilgan there was offside, otherwise that would have been a magic moment. I'm not even excited about it, because I'm pretty sure he was an absolute mile offside, as is usually the case, off the back of those balls played forward to the corner taker from the set piece. We'll just make sure though that we don't have something to celebrate, and indeed that is the case. He is well and truly offside, and indeed still 0-0 as we enter the last couple of minutes of this one. And there's going to be 5 minutes of added time in this game before it does go to extra time. It would be fair to say we'd be absolutely robbing Schalke in this one if it did go to extra time, and also if we're able to pinch it on penalties, because so far we've done very little in this game apart from that goal. We did score from an offside position. We do get a chance here to head that one forward through Search. Now that was won there by a Schalke player. Cueto was on the ball, but unfortunately loses out there. Now Heinke with a chance to try and win it back for us. Unfortunately though, Schalke come out on top in that to and fro. It's a chance here for one of their players, and the Manja puts it away in the 4th of 5 minutes of added time. Off the back of that, we're going to go attacking and obviously put these players on more positive duties, also be more expressive, up the tempo, and we'll also tell them to go a bit wider. We actually might not do that stuff in that top right corner, and also we're going to just leave those things the way they are, put these players on some more positive roles, and we might also try distribute to a playmaker instead of our defence, but that is a crushing time to concede, albeit based on what we've seen in this game, doesn't feel too harsh, because Schalke have certainly been the better team in this one, but unfortunately it looks like our cup run is going to come to an end with a last-minute goal in this third round tie. It was a bit helter-skelter there to and fro in the midfield, and unfortunately we did lose out in that heading war. Good finish there from the Manja into that top left corner. Finally, they get one past us and past Krapakas, and it does look like we are going out of the DFB Pokal thanks to a 1-0 loss, and indeed that is the case. As you can see, it was a pretty one-sided affair. Did quite well to even make that one look like it was going to go to extra time. Not too sure that chance was there that has such a big bump for us on that XG match story, but apart from that, we did very little, and we bow out of the DFB Pokal off the back of a 1-0 loss, which in the end is fairly well deserved when you do look at those stats. We'll just get through this post-match stuff and then check in on some player fitness. We have a few players there did pick up orange injuries. We're going to check in on that before we get stuck into that second game of today's episode. Quite a big one. First one back from the winter break in the 2 Bundesliga, 3rd versus 4th, as we are going to take on Hannover. But unfortunately, we are out of the DFB Pokal thanks to Schalke, albeit that was not unexpected. Now an injury update as we get a decent chunk of money for that. Kachala's out for 5 to 6 days. Might be back in time for that second game, as will Osman Tilgan, also 5 to 6 days, so we'll see if those guys get back for that second game of today's episode, that big one in the 2 Bundesliga, and we'll come back shortly and run through team sheets off the back of that 1-0 loss to Schalke in the 3rd round of the DFB Pokal. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. We are at home, just one change. Kachala has made his way back from that injury, but unfortunately it was not the case with Osman Tilgan. We're going to play Kim at left wing. He can handle that, so we'll put him there, and Bulland is on the bench as backup. Lehmann comes onto that bench in place of where we would usually have had an attacking midfield cover, with Kim now starting. There were Hannover, quite a defensive looking formation, but hopefully we can turn the tables on the first game this season and pick up a win at home and stay in 3rd place. And pretty similar to the Schalke game, there's an early corner here in favour of Hannover. Thankfully Gal deals with that one at the near post. Now Colour will control that one fairly well there for Hannover in the mostly red today, but Krasnicki does well to win that one back. Search back to Krapakas. We'll try and pump this one deep, and Cliche does get in behind. Poor work there defensively from Hannover. A shot's fired off but unfortunately just wide there from our striker who was banging in the goals. But off the back of that, very shortly, we are back down the other end here for another Hannover corner. They put this one into the mixer, and Fabian Kunze gets up and scores his second goal of the season in early doors. They are putting good pressure on us here, Hannover, and they get some reward. That one a bit frustrating from a set piece, but it looks like early, much like the Schalke game, we are on the back foot, and this time we pay the price. 1-0 down, coming up to the 10-minute mark. And that was it for the first half of this 2 Bundesliga game. No highlights off the back of that goal to Hannover. Early chance before that to us on a counter-attack, but unfortunately 2 corners to Hannover, and they scored one. Off the back of that, it's actually been quite an even game, but unfortunately this shots on target does mean we are still 1-0 behind Cliche. Only on a 6.3, we'll bring on Salue. As you saw in that Werder Bremen game before the winter break, he came on and did make quite a big difference in that one at halftime, so hopefully that will be the case again. We'll tell the guys not doing too well and hopefully get a response in the second half. We'll get things back underway, 1-0 behind. And it's only taken 5 minutes for the first highlight in the second half. It's a free kick there to Hannover, looking for that top right corner. Thankfully, just goes over the bar, but we are still 1-0 behind. And only a few minutes off the back of that early free kick there to Hannover, they have another one this time from a bit further out. Kim does win that one in the air, but unfortunately we hit it backwards, and Hannover are able to get back on the ball. So far off the back of this winter break, we are looking quite sloppy. Good chance there for ball to far post, but thankfully that one is a bit too much on it, and it does stay 1-0 here, coming up to the hour mark. And while we are here, I don't think the Kim experiment at left wing has worked, so Anton Bullen can come on for him on a 6.3, but with a half hour left, we are still struggling a little bit, and 1-0 behind. And literally right off the back of making that previous substitution, now Dorenzo has picked up a yellow card and is down to a 6.4, and also a few other players are down to red hearts off the back of a short backup from that DFB Pokal game. So we're going to make our last few substitutions. Both wing backs can come off for Bas and for Ernesto, and also we might take off Kachala, having just come back from an injury in time to play this game. Murati will come on for him. There'll be all our subs used. Still 1-0 down with 25 minutes left. And with 20 minutes to go in this one, it's yet another free kick here in favour of Hannover. It does look like our discipline today hasn't been too great, but thankfully still only down by 1 goal. But Valentin there gets in behind our defence, just inside the byline. Bullock with a loose tackle there, doesn't connect. And now Kunze with another header gets on the end of that one. He scores 2 in one game, and that might be the dagger blow with only 20 minutes left. It is 2-0, and we might be, or it looks like we will be, dropping down to 4th below these guys on the 2 Bundesliga table, which is disappointing, having finished off that period before the winter break so well. But Kunze, another good header, gets past Krapakas, and now we're really against it. 2-0 down with 20 minutes left, and we'll go attacking off the back of that. And just about to make our way inside the last 5 minutes of this game, it's another free kick here to Hannover. They put that one into the mixer. Kunze, I think that was, looking for a hat-trick, but thankfully it goes over the bar. Off the back of that previous highlight, we did go some more attacking roles, as well as put that mentality to attacking, but unfortunately doesn't look like it's going to make much difference while we are here. We might try and move those midfielders forward a little bit more. Also, we'll just check if we can put our centre-backs on some more positive duties, but it doesn't look like that is the case, and we'll put Quieto onto potentially an attacking midfielder on attack. Of course, Julian Weigl did that last season for us at some point, and it actually worked quite well. Overall, this game, quite even in terms of stats, but somehow we do find ourselves 2-0 behind. That is sometimes just a weird thing that can happen in Football Manager. Hopefully, it's just a speed bump instead of a major concern, and it is Hannover here on the attack yet again in the last couple of minutes of this game. Color from outside the box will pick out Valentin here in space down that left-hand side. This is that one into the mixer, and Gar will bundle that one over his own line. It's an own goal, and we are absolutely cooked now. It is a 3-0 loss, and it's feeling a lot like some game that we lost earlier this season. I can't quite remember who we did lose that game to. In fact, I do. It was Darmstadt, a really weird result at the time, but nothing is going right for us in this one. An own goal to cap it off, and we are going to suffer a 3-0 defeat here. Not a good performance stats-wise. Extremely even game, but they did have a higher XG, so I suppose it's a fair result, but certainly didn't feel like a 3-0 game when you look at those stats. But based on highlights, we didn't have many very similar to the Schalke game. Hopefully that cup result doesn't affect our form in the 2 Bundesliga, but early stages looks like it might have. That is a poor 3-0 defeat, even missing someone like a Tilgen. Maybe that might be an issue. Maybe we need to try and get a better backup than Bulland in that position. I was thinking about that going into next season anyway. Maybe that's something we need to bring forward if he is going to get a bit more injured during the second half of the season. But unfortunately, that 3-0 defeat does mean we drop below Hannover and outside of the promotion spots in our first game back in the 2 Bundesliga from the winter break. And back in the inbox, I'll pick those 2 games in today's episode. Disappointing late defeat to Schalke, albeit they completely outplayed us. And Hannover, to be fair, did something quite similar, even though the stats overall were quite even. Most of the highlights in that game were also in their favour. And it does mean we are now outside of those promotion spots in the 2 Bundesliga, albeit still 16 games left to try and get back on track. And next up, we do take on Heidenheim. So hopefully, even though that one's away from home, we can get back on track and try and close that gap on Hannover. If they slip up, and in terms of what I mentioned at the end of that previous game, if we do need a better backup to Osman Tilgen, we were able to adjust our season objectives during that winter break. We did tell the board that these days we would want to try and avoid a relegation battle, so it does mean that our wage budget is a little bit higher than it otherwise would have been. So maybe we can get a better left wing backup than Anton Bulland for the remainder of the season. That might be something I look at, especially if he does happen to pick up another injury in this transfer window, albeit with a free transfer. I think we can register them at any point anyway, just to make sure about that. But that could be something that we do over the course of the remainder of this transfer window if Osman Tilgen does get ruled out for a little bit longer. Hasn't been that good this season, truth be told. Certainly not as consistent as he has been in the past couple of seasons, but there's a big drop-off to someone like Anton Bulland, which is a little bit of a concern. And Kim there didn't exactly do a great job in that left wing position either, but that will do it for today's episode. 2 losses, unfortunately, out of the DFB Pokal and also out of the promotion spots in the 2 Bundesliga. If you enjoyed today's episode where I lost lots, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back. I'm going to play Heidenheim off camera. That should be a game we can bounce back to form in based on the fact they are rock bottom of the table and we beat them 3-0 in that first episode of this season. And off the back of that, we might come back for those games either side of January transfer deadline day. Dynamo Dresden, we also beat 3-0 earlier this season, albeit that did seem like quite a flattering scoreline, and those guys are in 7th, so that game could be a little bit tricky. And off the back of deadline day, if we do any business, we'll take on Hamburg away from home. They are currently top of the table, picked up a draw against them earlier in the season. That might be tough away from home, but hopefully we would have at least picked up a win in that Heidenheim game going in to that episode coming up tomorrow, and maybe might get a chance to try and sneak back in to one of those promotion spots. But until tomorrow, for that Dynamo Dresden Hamburg double, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, laugh through the sadness. Don't know how